3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to another World Building Workshop, the video series on YouTube where I recap World Building Wednesdays, which is our Wednesday live stream at twitch.tv/TwistedGear We do that every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, so you can join in to be a part of the actual live conversation for the recap for next Monday's video. As always, I'd like to thank our generous donators over at ko-fi.com/TwistedGear such as Alec, TJ, KJ, Rainweaver, and DDevil1193, and all of our other donators for their support for shows like this and all of our other content. As usual, we use the Pathways rule system from Cortex Prime to create a chart like this. And then I take this chart that we build on our live streams and then kind of recap it in a way that makes more sense than that gobbledygook. So let's begin, shall we? So this one's a modern fantasy horror. Modern horror fantasy? There's body horror, there's fairies, and there's cars and guns, oh my. So, whatever combination of genres you think of, modern horror fantasy. I'm sticking with that one. We begin with the understanding that there are going to be three primary realities, kind of tiered and layered on top of each other. You've got the modern world, which is what we're going to refer to, the world that you currently know of. We have the fairy world, where, there's fairies. Magic, goblins, oh my, and all kinds of things like that. Then there's the biomechanical world, a Giger-esque design of biomechanical monstrosities. And, if you've ever seen the work of H.R. Giger, like, the Xenomorph, imagine an entire world of that kind of stuff. Between each of these three realms are gateways. The gateways appear in one of three forms. There is a constructed gateway that is between each of them, only one though, to my understanding, that we discussed. There is also unstable rifts that have monsters that pop up between each of the realms, more on those later, as well as a constructed device that can just generate gateways. Now, only the biomechanical beings of their realm have mastered this technology, which makes them quite a bit of a threat and ideally the main antagonists to your game world. The modern world. Take what you look outside the window and, that's pretty much what you've got. Of course, we're going to add in a couple of nuanced things. There are guns. Children can see fairies without any kind of technology because they haven't developed a lack of imagination yet, as well as animals. There was a point there where we added a plot thread about the fairy king actually having, been rejected from the fairy world and living in the human world for a while, and that kind of nuancing that could possibly happen, so that's an idea if you wish to take it, but we kind of didn't stick with that idea for a while. It was discussed, but not really a big thing. Area 51, or some other kind of, place of that nature. Secret bunker, if you want to not be that cliche about it, but, it's tabletop RPG. Go cliche with it. Places like Area 51 and other buildings of that nature house special op units, such as Voidwalker. The Voidwalkers are comprised of members across all three realities, and thus, like I said, gives PCs the breadth of options across all the different realities for them to play with. They are able to walk between rifts unharmed and not come out the other side looking like monsters at will. And they follow the orders of a very secret Soviet-era spy master. Why? Because it was cool, that's why. They are known throughout all the other realms, both through the leaders that tend to supervise the gateways in all the different realms, but the Voidwalkers have a daunting task to live up to the Skullheads, a small faction or a team of Voidwalkers that have done great deeds in the past, left up to the GM's interpretation to create them as you see fit. So for better or for worse, you're living up to somebody. For a bit of added flavor, the last bit of information on the modern world that we added in is that the kind of tools and equipment that is used to govern and protect the world from the rifts or voids or gateways tends to be of that World War I and II steampunk cross aesthetic. So that's what the modern world's got going for it. The fairy world. In this one, we put quite a bit of work into it. This is a very fleshed out portion of the world. We also kind of left it open enough for GMs and writers to kind of add in whatever magical implements you want. So while we didn't add in a lot of specifics here, it is specifically done that way so that you can add whatever magical beings you'd like. Fauna or any other kind of fey creature, whatever you want. One of the primary issues going on in the Fey reality is that there is a darkness that is encroaching from a dark forest in the realm, and this power is able to actually remove the magical essence from other fairies and Fey-like creatures. As such, different factions have begun to form, namely the Red Caps being a faction of goblins and goblinoids that are coming out of the forest that actually kind of, well, they're just bad guys and they kind of help deal bad things. On top of that, we get into more complicated things. We have the World Breakers. The World Breakers is the main military faction of the fairy realm that is very much aware of the other realities and their potential invasion from one of them. And this faction is kind of broken down into two different groups. The Restoration. Restoration is the first group that actually is a part of the World Breakers that believe in trying to stay home and restore their lands and their magical powers, whatever the cost. Then you have the Conquests. The Conquests are a group that actually believe in, well, this world is lost and we're losing all of our magical powers. We have the technology, and with what power we have left, pick a world, conquer it. Probably going to be Earth. So there's some social nuancing for you. And lastly, we have the Biomechanical World, or the Giger Mechanical? Giger Mechanical? I like that, I'm going to stick with that. Giger Mechanical World. This place has very Giger-esque technology all about it. You know, everything is some kind of organic construct. The beings in this realm are meant to be the game's primary antagonists, left vague enough for you to kind of create whatever horrible monstrosities your mind can come up with. Gross. We didn't spend a whole lot of time developing this world, as we kind of wanted to leave it a little bit more vague for the GMs and writers to put in whatever mysteries they could think of. But we did come up with a main plot thread that is intended to be kept mostly secret, or it's there for you to do whatever you want with. We did focus on one primary plot thread, though. This primary plot thread also plays on the idea of possibly having the biomechanical beings, or the bios, be a possible player option and could even participate in the Voidwalkers. The bios are the victims of something called the Ferrocum virus. Ferrocum actually being a portmanteau of two Latin words, ferrum and the commandenti. Literally translated from Latin means iron eater, so, you know, that's kind of cool. This virus has this strange ability of taking mechanical constructs and giving them organic components. What was once a very, very strict machine that had an ideology of, or that was constructed for a specific purpose and knew what it was supposed to do in life, now has the understanding of having a brain. It now went from having a specific purpose to having infinite purpose, which, whilst great for humans, it kind of drives a machine mad. Now, it has the opposite effect on organics. No, it doesn't make them mechanical, but it turns their organic bodies into mechanized variants, or at least optimized machines, in the sense that they are now, you know, we process food, it now is just made for processing food. And whatever kind of bastardization you can think of organics and what you can do with their kind of bodies. Maybe their bodies are turned into living suits of armor. That's kind of creepy. The final bit on this world are the cleanse. These are your player options as beings that have been able to cleanse themselves from the virus and now work to try and protect other realms from the virus's offensive abilities. And yes, that does mean that the biomechanical world actually originally was entirely constructs. They were the predominant race of the biomechanical world was actually once a synthetic race that was affected by this virus and is now an oppressor of other realities. Finally, we're going to touch on the enemy options. So we spent a lot of time talking about the different kinds of creatures that you could be facing and how they're created. The twisted gears. That branding, though. Each world kind of has some kind of primary focus. With the magic, with fairy world, it's magic. With the human world, it's biology, as you know, we're kind of organic. And with the biomechanical world, it's actually technology, as they originated as a technological synthetic race. So every single type of twisted gear that comes through the rift is some kind of bastardized combination of the two closest realms that are connected by that rift. Modern and the fantasy realm, you have modern fantasy horrors, things like cryptids and werewolves and, you know, monstrous versions of them, but yeah, those kinds of things. Fairy and the biomechanical world have biomechanical horrors, things where like beings actually have parts of their bodies replaced with like chainsaws and guns and jetpacks and stuff like that, that kind of body horror stuff. And the biomechanical and the modern world create post-apocalyptic style horrors, mutations and grotesque beings of that nature, even more body horror stuff but without the mechanical components, that sort of stuff. That's it! That's another fun one. Comment down below if there's anything that you'd like to see us add in or make sure that we check off to another world that we have, or your thoughts on this one. Hey, if you even bring this one to a table of yours, please let us know. I'm very interested to see if anyone's actually playing with these game worlds. That's kind of cool. If I were to name this one, probably the Voidwalker's Dilemma. Yeah, I mean, you play as Voidwalkers, there's a bit of a dilemma of all the different creatures invading, and should you invade other worlds, protect yourself, all the different other combinations of, world politics happening in the other realms. Yeah, sounds like a dilemma to me. So, Voidwalker's Dilemma. Thank you again for joining me today. If you do not know, we stream on Twitch every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. or starting at 3 p.m. World building Wednesdays on Wednesdays, and then games on Fridays and Sundays. Although if we've got editing going on, we'll be doing editing on Sundays. So that's kind of fun if you want to learn a little bit about editing. If you want to go to our Ko-fi page, that's where you can support this show and other shows like that, as well as get a couple of bits of merch from our other podcasts, like keychains and stickers. And if you want to get shirts or mugs, our main merch store over on the main website has all that stuff for you. So, if you need some podcasts, we've got those linked down below as well on our main site. And with that, I think my job here is done. Thank you all so very much, and as always, enjoy the world.